If you're struggling to get the views that you want on your Instagram stories, then these 3 easy content ideas might just be the solution. It's not about hacks or beating the algorithm. It's just about finding strategic and intentional ways that you can create content that people actually want to engage with. And I think that these 3 ideas that I'm about to share are going to be a really helpful starting point for you. So let's just dive right in, shall we? Okay, so one of the most common things that absolutely kills story engagement is, unfortunately, when you share your feed content directly to your story. You know the look, just like a carousel slide in the middle of a vertical story frame. Now, obviously this sucks because as creators, we want to be able to get more reach for our feed content by sharing it to our stories. It can be a good way to kind of boost the initial eyes on your post and maybe get some more engagement, help get your feed content more distribution, but that only works if your story views don't totally plummet and people are watching your stories and then, going to look at your feed posts, right? So I've found a much better way to share your feed content to your story in a way that's a lot more organic, engaging. It feels like a story, so people aren't as likely to just exit out or tap on past. So let's just pop over to my profile and let's say that I want to share this post that I made about how to repurpose your YouTube blog and podcast content for Instagram. So obviously the normal way would just be to tap that little share button and then, post it on my story like this. But like I was saying, that's kind of boring. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to discard this and I'm going to take a screenshot of the post and I'm just going to go ahead and crop it so that you can just see kind of my username and the first slide of the post. We'll tap done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and create a story. So I'm going to take a selfie and I'm just going to point to an area of the screen where I'm going to end up putting my post. Okay, so now I can tap on the sticker tray. I can go ahead and select a picture sticker from my camera roll and I'm going to use the one that I just took, right? And then basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to add some text telling people to go ahead and check out the post. At this point, you want to give a bit of a preview of the value that people can expect so that they're more likely to actually tap through and go browse the post. And then finally, because this is kind of an unconventional way of sharing story content, you want to add some kind of prompt like tap here so that people know that they can actually interact with the sticker. Okay, once you've got your design complete, you're going to tap those 3 dots and hit save. Okay, so now's the part where we actually make it interactive, so it functions. We're going to go out of stories, we're going to go back to that post and tap share like you normally would. Now you're going to position this in the top corner in the general area where you put the sticker visually on your last story that you just made. Then we're going to tap the sticker tray again, open up camera roll, and we're going to import that vertical image as a sticker. Then you just need to size it up so that it is the full size. And finally, you can go ahead and share it to your story. I've done this a number of times and I've shared them to my IG updates highlight if you want to check it out on my profile. But basically you can see then when you tap the little preview of the post, the little see post pop-up comes up. You can tap on that and of course it takes you over to the post. Here's just another quick example. Tap there, tap see post. This is what your followers can do to actually find their way to your feed and scroll through that feed content that you're sharing. This is a much more engaging way than just straight up sharing the post to your story because in general, I find, especially for personal brands, selfies are going to be more engaging than just a random post shared to the story. And it gives you a chance to kind of tee up what the story is about, give a little bit of a preview to make people more curious and want to tap through. Here's the thing, stories that are just an endless slideshow of selfies, point of view shots, like photos of what you're seeing, or even like videos of what you're seeing or videos of you talking to the camera, they kind of get a little bit boring, a little bit samey. So what I want to recommend that you try is actually shooting some third-person B-roll of you interacting in your environment. In case you're not a filmmaking nerd like me, then I'll tell you that B-roll basically is just a term for any kind of clips in a movie that don't tell like the A narrative. So, when I'm talking to you like this is an example of A-roll, but when I show you this clip over top, that would be an example of B-roll. And I use this principle of B-roll all the time in my Instagram stories, and I found that it gets me a lot more engagement than just your typical point of view videos. The fact is, most people just don't take the time to do this extra step to be more creative and make things a little bit more visual. The majority of people are making their Instagram stories like this, just holding the phone up to their face or holding the phone up to the things that they're seeing in their life. But taking this little B-roll approach is a really great way to make you stand out. And it has the bonus side effect of it allows you to kind of save up clips of yourself. If you someday want to make a TikTok or a reel, you'll have this whole library of like nice vertical footage of yourself. So there's lots of benefits to this. I know it might sound intimidating, but literally all you need is just a basic tripod and then an iPhone mount. One second, let me get mine and I can show you. This is the little mount that I use. It was literally $13 off Amazon. I'll link it in the description. I attached this to my little Manfrotto travel tripod, and I've just kept it on handy this entire time I've been living in the van, so I can just grab it, go outside, set up the tripod real quick, throw my phone on here, and then take a video of me like opening the door to the van or standing around outside with beautiful scenery in the background, drinking my morning coffee. You don't need to be traveling around in a self-converted camper van for this strategy to work either. You can take videos of you making your morning coffee, or maybe a time lapse of you sitting at your desk working. You can totally do this all within your own home. You don't have to go and like be bold like me and go set up your tripod in public in order to film yourself. It really just takes a few minutes to grab clips like this, and I think it makes a world of difference with helping your Instagram stories stand out and get more engagement. Now, I know this is a little bit above and beyond just picking up your phone and talking to it, so I do find it helpful to kind of plan this type of content out in advance. If you're looking for an organized and optimized way to plan your Instagram and honestly content across all platforms, then you can check out my Notion content calendar template that I have for sale on my website. This is like my ultimate tool for content planning. I've been using it for over a year now, and I have like refined it to be organized enough that you can store your podcast, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, email list, any kind of content you want to plan. You can have it all in one organized place. Plus, I have a little section at the top where you can kind of take notes on what your plans for your Instagram story for the upcoming week are. And I find that super helpful when you kind of want to go above and beyond and film extra stuff like this. So if you want to check out that Notion content calendar, I will link that below as well. The third and final thing that I wanted to share with you is about really getting your community engaged with your story content. If you want to increase your story views, then you need to increase your story engagement, or what Instagram refers to as story interactions. As you might have noticed just from being an Instagram user, your Instagram stories are not just organized chronologically. Like, of course, there is some chronological order to them, but the distribution of stories is at least somewhat determined by their engagement. So if you want to get your stories pushed out to more people, you want to get the people that are seeing it first to really engage with it, like send a DM response or reply to a poll or a question box. So what I found is one of the best ways to really get engagement, and what I mean by this is not just like throw up cheap like polls and, sliders everywhere, because that's not like really having a conversation. What you want to do is find a topic that people want to submit their thoughts on, like really genuinely have a conversation with the people in your audience. Here are a few prompts to get you started. 1. Ask your audience their most unpopular opinion about your niche, and then anonymously share those responses to your story and get people to vote on how much they agree with it or not. You could even use a slider of like, how much do you agree with this hot take? An influencer I follow on Instagram, Kenzie Brenna, does this every so often, and I find it so engaging. I'm like drawn in. I'm like, what do other people think that are also following Kenzie? And then you can kind of give your own response of how much you agree. So for example, I might ask, what's your most unpopular opinion about Reels? And then I could share people's responses and get everybody else to react to them. Number 2, ask your audience for their biggest pet peeve in your niche and share a group of responses at once. So for example, I might say like, what's your biggest pet peeve about the influencer marketing industry? And then if you want to be able to share multiple responses at once, instead of, Instagram's version where you can just reply to one at a time, what you can do is just take a screenshot of the response page, and then you can go ahead and crop out each little box and then just use them as stickers on your story. And then, you can just cover up people's names with like a sticker or whatever. And number 3, use polls and ask people their opinion on popular or controversial topics in your niche. So, for example, I could make a poll that's like, what do you think is the most annoying thing that creators do on their Instagram story? And then maybe the options would be like talking for way too long on video, or including way too many frames within a 24-hour period, or not using captions. The point of this tip is really that you can use these features that Instagram gives us, the polls, the question boxes, the sliders, but you need to make sure that you use them in a way that people actually want to engage with it. And the best way to do that is to find these kind of hot topics, questions that people can't help but respond to. And this doesn't mean that you should try to be inflammatory or talk about sensitive topics for no reason. But in any industry, there are things that people are going to have their different opinions on, but ultimately, it doesn't really matter that much, right? What your pet peeve about influencers is not super high stakes. So I just want to be clear that I'm not telling you to go out there and talk about really offensive stuff, because obviously don't. But there are things that are worth having conversations about that people feel strongly about, even though it might be just kind of silly or whatever. And that's the sweet spot for good kind of community conversation starters. The example that I always love to give is, do you like pineapple on pizza? That is a heated conversation, but at the end of the day, it's not hurting anyone. It's really not a big deal. So you might as well have that kind of fun conversation with your community. So hopefully these ideas have kind of given you a starting point for making your stories more engaging, which will in turn help your stories get more reach and more views. If you want to see some more quick tips and techniques for how I make my Instagram stories more engaging on a daily basis, then you should go ahead and check out this video, because I demonstrate a lot of the stuff that I talked about in theory here. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're having adventures and following your dreams, and I will see you in this video. Okay, bye.